Let me ask you something that might sting a little. What if they didn't accidentally hurt you? What if they knew exactly what they were doing and the real power move isn't clapping back? It's choosing not to. I know that moment. The text that was meant to wound. The comment delivered with a smile sharp enough to cut. The silence that feels like punishment. And your body reacts before your mind does. Heart racing, jaw tight, chest burning with the need to defend yourself. Because when someone hurts you on purpose, it doesn't just bruise your feelings. It shakes your sense of safety. It whispers, you're not respected. You're not valued. You're not safe here. And your instinct to fight, probe, expose, react. But here's the truth nobody teaches us when someone tries to provoke you. They are handing you a test. Not of your intelligence, not of your strength, but of your emotional sovereignty. Intentional hurt is often bait. It's an invitation into chaos, into drama, into a power struggle where nobody actually wins. And I want you to hear me clearly. Reacting is natural, but reacting is not always powerful. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to play, because when you don't take the bait, something shifts. Not in them, in you. And that shift, that's where your real power lies. Let's go deeper, because if someone hurt you on purpose, the first question burning inside you is, why would they do that to me? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Intentional hurt is rarely about you. It's about power. It's about insecurity. It's about someone trying to regulate their own pain by controlling yours. People who hurt on purpose are often drowning in emotions they don't know how to handle. Shame, jealousy, fear of abandonment, feeling small, and instead of sitting with that discomfort, they outsource it. They project it. They hand it to you and hope you'll carry it for them. When someone feels powerless, one of the quickest ways to feel powerful again is to provoke a reaction. Your anger, your tears, your defensive explanation, your desperate need to fix it. That reaction tells them, I can still move you. I still matter enough to shake you. And that's the hook. But here's what I need you to understand. When someone chooses to wound you intentionally, they are revealing their emotional immaturity, not your inadequacy. Secure people don't weaponize words. Healthy people don't provoke to feel superior. Grounded people don't need to destabilize you to feel steady. So before you spiral into self-doubt, pause. This isn't about your worth. It's about their unhealed wounds looking for a target. And when you see that clearly, something changes. You stop personalizing the attack and you start seeing the pattern. And clarity, that's the first step toward control. Let's talk about that surge inside you. The second they say it, the second they do it, your body lights up like an alarm system. Your heart pounds. Your stomach tightens. Your thoughts race. And there's this overwhelming urge to respond, to defend yourself, to correct them, to expose the unfairness. That urge feels powerful. It feels righteous. It feels justified. But what's actually happening is something biological. When someone hurts you on purpose, your nervous system reads it as a threat, not just emotionally, physically. Your brain goes into protection mode. Fight, flight, freeze. And for many of us, it's fight. You want to send the paragraph. You want to raise your voice. You want to match their energy so they understand how it feels. But here's the problem. Reacting from that surge means you're operating from survival, not strength. And survival mode doesn't care about long-term outcomes. It only cares about immediate relief. You think if you react, you'll feel better. You think if you defend yourself perfectly, they'll finally see your side. But most of the time, reaction escalates the chaos. It feeds the exact dynamic they were hoping to create. And here's the truth that takes courage to accept: not every emotional impulse deserves expression. Sometimes that urge to react isn't power, it's pain trying to protect itself. And protection is important, but wisdom is stronger. The real question isn't, how do I make them understand? The real question is, what response protects my peace? That's where maturity begins. Here's the move that changes everything. You pause. Not because you're weak. Not because you don't have something to say, But because you refuse to let someone else control your nervous system, when someone hurts you on purpose, they expect immediacy. They expect heat. They expect you to snap, cry, argue, explain. They're counting on emotional chaos. And when you pause, you interrupt the script. A pause is not silence out of fear. A pause is silence out of strength. It's you saying, I will not let your behavior dictate my response. That moment, those few deep breaths, that's where you reclaim control. Your body may still be buzzing. Your mind may still be racing. But instead of exploding outward, you turn inward. You breathe. You ground your feet. You unclench your jaw. You let the wave rise without riding it. Because here's what most people don't realize. The first reaction is rarely the wisest one. It's just the fastest. And speed does not equal strength. When you pause, you give your frontal lobe time to come back online. You move from emotional reflex to conscious choice. You shift from being triggered to being intentional. And that shift, it's radical. The person trying to provoke you may feel confused. They may push harder. They may escalate. But your pause sends a clear message. You don't get to own my reaction. And that is deeply unsettling to someone who thrives on control. In that pause, you are not powerless. You are powerful beyond measure. Let me say this clearly, not every comment deserves a response. Not every jab deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your defense. When someone hurts you on purpose, they are often throwing bait into the water, sharp, shiny, irresistible bait. And the moment you snap at it, you're hooked. Now you're explaining. Now you're defending. Now you're proving. Now you're emotionally entangled. And they're watching, because if they can pull you into reaction, they can shift the focus. Suddenly, it's not about what they did. It's about how you responded. And now you're the emotional one. You're the overreacting one. You're the dramatic one. That's the trap. Emotional boundaries are not about building walls. They're about deciding what gets access to your nervous system. You can hear a cutting comment and internally say, that's about them, not me. You can receive disrespect and calmly reply, I'm not engaging with that. You can even choose silence, not as avoidance, but as strategy. Refusing the bait doesn't mean you approve of the behavior. It means you refuse to fuel it. And here's what happens when you don't take the bait. The dynamic loses oxygen. Drama requires participation. Conflict requires two nervous systems. Provocation requires a reaction. When you don't participate, the energy has nowhere to land. That's not passivity. That's precision. You are choosing where your emotional labor goes. And that choice, that self-respect in action. Let's get honest about something. You cannot respond wisely while your body is on fire. When someone hurts you on purpose, your nervous system doesn't care about being mature. It cares about survival. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts get loud. Your emotions spike. And in that state, you are not choosing, you are reacting. So before you decide what to say, regulate. That might mean stepping away from the room. That might mean putting your phone down instead of firing off that message. That might mean going for a walk until the shaking in your hand settles. Because here's the truth. A regulated response is powerful. A dysregulated reaction is predictable, and predictable reactions are easy to manipulate. If someone knows exactly how to trigger you, and you respond the same way every time, you've handed them the blueprint to your nervous system. Regulation breaks that pattern. Take slow breaths, longer exhales than inhales. Feel your feet on the ground. Name what you're feeling. I'm angry. I feel humiliated. That hurt. Naming emotions reduces their intensity. It brings you back into your body. It moves you from chaos to clarity. And once you are regulated, then you get to ask the important question, is this worth addressing, or is this behavior revealing something I no longer need to tolerate? Regulation isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about honoring it without letting it drive the car. When you respond from steadiness instead of storm, your words carry weight. Your silence carries weight. Your boundaries carry weight, and weight commands respect. Now that you're regulated, now that your body isn't hijacked, this is where your real power shows up. If you choose to respond, do it calmly, briefly, Clearly, no over-explaining. No defending your character. No trying to convince someone determined to misunderstand you. Because here's the hard truth. People who hurt you on purpose are often looking for emotional fireworks. They expect intensity. They expect you to crumble or explode. Calm disrupts that expectation. You can say, that comment wasn't okay. You can say, if you're upset, we can talk respectfully. You can say, I'm not engaging in this, and then stop talking. Do you feel how grounded that is? There's no venom, no performance, no escalation, just clarity. Calm responses are disarming because they don't give the aggressor anything to fight against. There's no chaos to grab onto, no emotional fuel to burn. And let me tell you something powerful. When you stay steady in the face of intentional hurt, you expose the behavior without attacking the person. You let their words hang in the air. You let the discomfort sit with them instead of absorbing it yourself. That's emotional maturity. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to dominate the exchange. You don't need to prove your worth in the heat of the moment. Your composure speaks louder than any comeback ever could. And sometimes the most unsettling thing you can give someone who wants a reaction, is peace. There are moments when even a calm response is too much. There are moments when the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. And I know how uncomfortable that feels. Silence can feel like surrender. It can feel like you're letting them get away with it. It can feel like weakness. But let's reframe that. Silence is not submission when it's chosen. It's strategy. When someone hurts you on purpose, they are often seeking impact. They want to see it land. They want to watch it ripple through you. They want evidence that they still have access to your emotions. And when you give them nothing, no flinch, no defense, no emotional performance, it creates a mirror. Now they are left alone with what they said, alone with how it sounded, alone with their own discomfort. Silence forces accountability without confrontation. And here's something deeply important. You are not required to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to clap back at every insult. You don't have to teach emotional intelligence to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes silence says, I see what you're doing. Sometimes silence says, this isn't worth my nervous system. Sometimes silence says, you no longer have access. And access is earned. When your silence is grounded, not resentful, it shifts the power dynamic completely. Because the absence of reaction can be louder than any words you could ever speak. And the right people, they feel that shift immediately. Now let's talk about the harder truth. What if it's not a one-time comment? What if it's not a bad day? What if intentional hurt is a pattern? Because patterns tell stories that isolated moments don't. If someone repeatedly pokes, provokes, belittles, or subtly undermines you, that's not miscommunication. That's a dynamic. And dynamics don't change because you react better. They change because you set different standards. You can pause, you can regulate, you can respond calmly. But if the behavior continues, the real move isn't better communication, it's distance. And distance doesn't always mean dramatic exits. It can mean emotional detachment. It can mean sharing less. It can mean lowering access. It can mean no longer looking to them for validation, safety, or understanding. You stop explaining yourself. You stop seeking closure. You stop hoping they'll suddenly become emotionally aware. Because here's the truth. Some people only feel powerful when you're destabilized. And when you are no longer available for destabilization, they either adjust or they fade. Distance is not punishment. It's protection. You are allowed to protect your peace even if it disappoints someone. You are allowed to step back even if they call you cold. You are allowed to choose environments where intentional hurt is not normal. Staying in constant reaction mode is exhausting. It erodes your confidence. It trains your body to live on edge. But choosing distance, that retrains your nervous system to expect respect. And respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you align with. Here's the most radical truth you need to hear: your power isn't in changing them. It's in choosing yourself. Every moment you refuse to react, Every time you pause, every time you regulate and respond, or don't respond at all, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You reclaim your peace, your dignity, your energy, your emotional sovereignty. Intentional hurt will always exist in the world. People will always try to provoke, manipulate, or belittle, but your worth, your calm, your clarity, none of that is in their hands unless you give it away. So I want you to remember this. You are allowed to set boundaries without guilt. You are allowed to step back without shame. You are allowed to disengage without explanation. You are allowed to prioritize your well-being over proving your point. And when you choose this path, choosing calm over chaos, choosing regulation over reaction, choosing silence over drama, you send a message louder than any argument ever could. I am not your entertainment. I am not your target. I am whole, and I will not be shaken by someone else's need to wound. That is true power, not in retaliation, not in proving yourself right, not in fighting fire with fire. True power is in choice, and the most courageous choice you can make in the face of intentional hurt, choose yourself, always.